Okay, welcome back to UPress Play, a sports show produced by FAU Student Media. We're live streaming on OwlTV's YouTube as well as broadcasting over the Breezeway and Owl Radio. I'm Megan, and with me is Maddox and Cameron. It is officially Friday, which means the school week is over. So how was your guys' week?
It was good. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's Friday. I was telling you, Megan, before we started recording, I don't know if it's just because it's Friday today, but I'm done. I'm ready for this week to be over, but ready to talk some sports before it's done.
Yeah, me too. This week, it's been a long one, but we're here. And kicking off with our FAU housekeeping is the Shula Bowl. So for those of you that don't know the Shula Bowl, it is the rivalry between FAU and FIU. It has been going on for 24 years. A little bit of background, it originated with the two head coaches, and they named it the Don Shula Bowl because they both had connections to Don Shula. And FAU's head coach believes that it goes a lot deeper than just athletics. The two teams, they compete with admissions as well because of their proximity. And FAU has the leading record over the Panthers with the 16-4. And tomorrow they will be playing at FAU. Do you have any predictions for the game, like score-wise?
I mean, I kind of hinted at it last time we talked on Wednesday, whatever that day was. But, for the past 6 years now, it hasn't really been a rivalry, if you want to stick to the definition of it, just because, FAU's just dominated. Last six, like I said, and I want to say the average margin of victory is something like 30, in the 30s somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, it really hasn't been much of a rivalry, but I really think this is the year, for the first time in forever, that, it's going to be a game. Not only is, FAU kind of struggled through the first couple of games, FIU's coming off a really, really good win, I think, over Central Michigan a week ago. They put up something like 52 points. Yeah. They ran the ball really well. Their quarterback looked really, really competent. They had a really good defense in that game. They have a really, really highly rated cornerback. So I just think all of that, it's going to be, I think just the talent is going to be closer this year than it has been for the past 6 years. I just think it's going to be a lot closer game, even if you favor FAU in this, which they're definitely the favorite. I don't know what the line is right now.
I think they're a 7-point favorite, I think.
They're favored?
Yeah.
Really? But yeah, I think this is the first time in a while we get a close Shula Bowl. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this year it will be close just because FAU, we talked about this previously on Wednesday too, but they're 0-2 now. And like you said, FIU is coming off this great win, so they're probably going into this game with more confidence than FAU is, even though it's an away game for them. And it's kind of actually a little bit funny almost from a FAU perspective, because the first win that FIU ever had over FAU was in 2005, and it actually got removed because they had violations within the NCAA.
Which is why I think it's the 22nd meeting, but it's the record is only 20, or it's 16-4.
16-4 actually the 21st game,
yeah. But Maddox, any thoughts from you?
For me, I'm not going to really give much of a prediction or analysis too much, just because I'm calling that game tomorrow for radio. However, thinking about what you said, Cameron, the margin of victory on average is 34.1 points. So looking at the history for in the Shula Bowl, the last time it was a one-possession game, FAU lost in 2016. It was 33-31. This has been a while. That was actually their last loss as well. So I feel like I'm just trying to think in the perspective of these new players. A lot of transfers, a lot of freshmen on this FAU roster, a lot of them who are starting. And now for Coach Herman, also his first experience as well, being involved in this rivalry, so them getting used to them trying to get adapted to this new rivalry that they're being a part of, which is a very historical rivalry, as Megan said. Both two head coaches, Howard Schnellenberger for FAU, and I forgot who it was for FIU, but both of them had ties working with the legendary coach Don Shula with the Miami Dolphins a while back, prior to coaching both colleges. And so now them building this rivalry, now having these new players, new coach being involved with it. It'll be very interesting to see this game, especially since both coaching staffs are relatively new. I forgot, Mike McIntyre, I think is the name of the
third-year head coach for FIU.
But yeah, third season, Coach Herman, second season, so new coaching staff being involved in this matchup. So, but I mean, McIntyre, his first year was in 2022, the last Shula Bowl game, because FAU moved to the AAC, so they couldn't have that game happen because of conference realignment. So that's also what makes this game so important, so big. It's been over a year since both schools played each other, and now both in different conferences.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said there. And, you know, if you want it, I know you kind of asked like a score prediction. I'd probably have to say, and again, I'm just like going off the top of my head, 31-27 FAU. But
you think it's going to be that high scoring?
I think so, yeah. Just because I think even if it is like a close game, I think this isn't a game where the offense can kind of figure out more. I still think Cam Fancher has something left to show us. I don't think, you know, the player that we heard Tom Herman talk about all offseason is who we've saw like the first two games. And believe it or not, Army's a really tough opponent. Army might be, you know, a even more like talented opponent, maybe not in the same way than FIU. So I think Herman said it himself, like that's two really hard games to start with. So when I say like, oh, I think this is gonna be like a closer game than we've seen in like however long it's been, like 6 years, I think that's more like credit to FIU than like dogging on, or credit to FIU, excuse me, than like dogging on FAU.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's going to be close. But yeah, no, I do think, you know, maybe not if they don't totally figure out. I think we see like in at least some improvement from the offense, but I do think it's going to be close. So yeah, if I had to put some money on a score, it'd be 31-27 FAU. Okay. But again, that's like, it might be interchangeable because I really do think it's going to be a really good, close game. And the fact that there wasn't a Shula Bowl last year, I think that makes it like that more contentious, if that makes sense.
Actually, I'm going to take the role of JD by saying we here at the UPress play do not endorse gambling, so we don't. So.
But do you have a score prediction, Megan?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a close game. I have FAU on top. I think I said 21-18, and we just had the staff predictions go up today. Check out UPress online if you want to read those. But I believe I said 21-18 FAU, just because it was kind of hard to tell with the Army game because they have such a different style of offensive play. But I feel like now with this game, their defense can kind of get back to their routine and not feel like lost almost when they're trying to expect what the play calls are going to be by FIU. And since it's a rivalry game, and like you said, they didn't have this Don Shula Bowl last year with the conference realignment, and then FAU and FIU, they signed a contract where they'll for sure have, after this season, another 3 games. I believe that's how it was. They signed a contract for 4 games consecutively, and this year will be the first one. Could you almost say that it's kind of like a must win for FAU because of the pressure that they'll have from fans?
I think so, yeah, because like I'm trying to think of like an example like to compare this to, because it's like maybe not like the biggest rivalry or most contentious rivalry in college sports when you think of like, you know, like Michigan, Ohio State, but it's like because FAU has like dominated this rivalry for so long now, in addition to just being like probably their biggest rival, it's almost like a given that you win or you beat FIU. I don't want to say like they're like little brother school, but like kinda. So like you can go have like a 10-3 season. If you lose to FIU, it's just like a wart on your season. Like no matter how successful you are. Because it's just like, you know, it's a given to beat FIU almost.
It's kind of like you have, you know, the little cat lasers It's like someone put the red dot on you,
Almost,
and
yeah.
that it'll just be on them for the rest of the year.
Exactly. So like, say they do lose this game, and one, you don't want to be 0-3. That's really hard, to come back from, even when you have one of the easiest schedules in football. You don't want to be 0-3, but you can still come back from that. But it's just, that'd be such a like stain, I think, on the season, losing a rivalry game at home too. Especially when you didn't play last year, and we've kind of been like looking forward to this for like 2 seasons now. So I think it's about as close to a must-win game as like it can be without like some sort of like playoff setting.
Yeah, it definitely isn't, since it's so early in the season. It's not like we can say this will determine bowl eligibility or anything.
Right.
But just kind of the emotional stakes almost is what makes it such a large game.
It's just so hard to come back from 0-3 too. Like, you drop this game, and then, I mean, like next week, Connecticut's not like one of the tougher opponents on their schedule.
But they're not an easy opponent.
Right, like especially with how they've struggled the past 2 weeks. So you don't want to be going on the road 0-3. Even with like an opponent like Connecticut.
Well, on some other news about FAU sports, the women's soccer team played last night. They lost to North Texas, and now they're officially 0-5, and they've tied 2 games. It's a pretty rough start for them as well. Last year they went to the second round of the American Athletic Conference tournament, and they knocked out the number 2 seed of USF. So it's just kind of shocking to see how they're starting this season after wrapping up last year, having a successful kind of ending towards that. I'm not sure if you two, I haven't really been keeping up with their games this year. Last season I covered a decent amount of their games, but that was just a little update onto what else is going on within FAU sports. And if you're interested in a career in media, come by to the 2nd floor of the Student Union to meet the 3 pillars of student media: OwlTV in room 231, Owl Radio in room 207, and University Press in room 214. If you're a journalism major, communications, marketing, or just looking for a cool community, come check us out. The UP general meetings are Mondays at 2. TV general meetings are Fridays at 1 p.m. and radio general meetings are Monday at 3 p.m. as of now. For more information search FAU Student Media online. Okay, well that wraps up our FAU housekeeping. We will see how they do tomorrow against FIU, and on to some more college football. We have some news within the Pac-12. They added 4 new teams from Mountain West: Fresno State, San Diego State, Boise State, and Colorado States. Thoughts on if this looks like a Power 5 conference?
No.
No?
Sorry. I mean, when you compare just off, honestly, whatever you go off, if you want to go off like name recognition, talent at the program right now, whatever you want, just like these additions, don't match up to like that of the SEC or that of the Big 12 or the Big 10, which I think might be kind of like an impossible ask. I think you're not gonna, with a bunch of like teams that we know now and just automatically associate as group of 5 teams, you're not gonna band a bunch of them together and make a Power 5, or what people assume is like a Power 5 conference. But my kind of like biggest takeaway from that is that's like very not good for Florida Atlantic. And I say that because we talked about this before with the playoff expansion, and there being 5 automatic qualifiers for the college football playoff for the 5 highest ranked conference champions. The American, what FAU plays in, they have a very good chance of earning that, of like consistently earning that 5th automatic qualifier. When you bring back the PAC, that's with 4 power conferences per se, how it was until a week ago. When you add like another, I guess, power conference back to that and make it 5, now you got to assume a lot of years that 5th automatic qualifying spot is going to go to all of those Power Five, if that's what you want to assume, conference champions, because you can assume most years they'll have like the 5 highest ranked conference champions. So that kind of like throws, I don't know what you would call that, but that almost like changes Florida Atlantic's position, because like we talked about it, like American is like thought of as like probably one of the in competition for like the 5th best conference. But now when you add like the Pac-12 or Pac-6, whatever you want to call this, I don't know if they're going to stick with the same name.
I saw someone call like Pac and 1/2 just because.
I think they could come up with some cool names, but I mean, to stay on subject, you know, it becomes like a Power 5 again when it was like Power 4 for like the past couple of months. So that makes it interesting, I think. And you also got to think how many teams from the American are going to get targeted to join that new like Pac-12 conglomerate, you know, weakening the conference that we play in. It has a lot of far-reaching, you know, consequences.
Yeah, like for me, I don't really see that many teams from the American moving towards Pac-12. I don't, because like looking geographically, I mean the farthest, I forgot exactly the farthest team, like some teams in Texas, that's like halfway across the country. However, that kind of reminds me a lot of like what I originally thought when the ACC brought in California and Stanford,
I would say to
two schools on the other side of the country being Atlantic.
Conferences have completely, I feel like,
lost meaning.
Everywhere.
Yeah, well, not even that. I don't say lost meaning, but like they've kind of like disregarded geography. Like in the Atlantic Coast Conference, Cal, who plays on like the Pacific Coast, and Stanford now, again, Pacific Coast. And then like the Big Ten, you have like Oregon and Washington and USC playing like conference games against Rutgers.
Big Ten was right around like the Northeast, Midwest region. So.
And then like SMU in the ACC, they're not really close to anybody else in the conference. So I think like because they've sort of like disregarded like borders and like regionality and things like that, you have to. I think it makes me think even more that like ACC teams are like free food for that new conglomerate conference, whatever you want to call it, to come and poach.
Because it seems like almost now conferences, because these schools have been around for a long time, they're just basing it off the record rather than actually where you are. Because when every conference was first made, wasn't it strictly geographical?
Well,
am I wrong?
It went like, because you know, there's been conferences like come and gone, you know, several of them, like the Big East almost died, and like the Southwest Conference, like what Texas and Oklahoma, I want to say, and Texas A&M used to play in, like came and went. I want to say it started with regionality, and that's how you like kind of ended up with for so long, like the Pac-12 on the West Coast, and then the Big Ten in the Midwest, and like the SEC in the Southeast, and like that's how it started. But then now, with like the influence of TV money and things like that,
NIL as
regionality,
and also private jets.
I was like, all these things like, you know, regionality, and that's a lot of people complain about that. They think that's when people talk about like, oh, the soul of college football is dying. That's what they're talking about, like the regionality of it. Because I think the worst thing about realignment, besides like being confused about who plays where, so many rivalries get put in jeopardy. Like the Shula Bowl was one, because of realignment, them not being in the same conference that we missed a year. And there's so many other examples of like some of like the best rivalries in college sports getting put in jeopardy because teams no longer play in the same conference. I want to say the Apple Cup, which is Washington State, a really storied old rivalry that a lot of people care about. Was one of those games that people were kind of worried about with the Pac-12 disbanding. But yeah, that's one of, like, again, with the Pac-12 now, realignment starting again, you have to think we're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. And I wonder, like, how many more rivalries might we lose? Because I really, there will at least be a couple AAC teams that get poached for this, because they'll expand eventually. They're not going to stay 6 teams forever.
No.
Yeah.
But out of these new additions, which do you think could be making like the most noise? in it.
I personally feel like the only like big name here is Boise State. I mean, people originally were thinking of them in the preseason as a fifth team, that fifth conference contender to automatically get that spot. And looking at how Boise State played against Oregon, in Eugene, Oregon, it was right down to the wire. Boise State historically had like a lot of like great players for their team over the years, and they kind of like grown as a program, going up the ranks from like lower division conferences and leagues to then like higher ones, and to now being part of Mountain West, now going to the Pac-12. So I think the most could be Boise State could be like the new position to make noise, either that or Colorado State. But I don't see San Diego State really making much noise at all.
Yeah, I was going to say Colorado State is who I feel like is going to make the most noise, just because they've been doing fairly well like in their conference as of now, and I think that they're kind of on the up track. Like they're starting to form their team further and compete better than they used to in the past. So it'll be interesting to see just how these teams come together and play within each other, the new teams and also the teams that were previously existing in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you, because I think probably the most important thing is being good now, if that makes sense at all. And like you both just said, both of these programs, Boise State and Colorado State, are kind of like trending upwards right now. Maddox just said it with, Boise State played really tough at Oregon, one of the most talented teams in the country. And then I think after that game versus Dion, that like the entire country, and when I say the entire country was watching last year, I think a lot of people are paying attention to Colorado State, especially this week, because I want to say Colorado and Colorado State play this week.
Yeah, this time in Colorado State.
Yeah, and I think that game last year brought attention to Colorado State, especially their coach, with kind of going back and forth with Dion in the media before that. Yeah, I think because they're on kind of like trending upwards now, that's going to be important with, trying to get or like land with your feet rolling on things like revenue sharing, which starts here soon, which is apparently going to start here soon. NIL is continuing to evolve. So I think like, having some cachet now, before all this change really starts, and like I guess probably next season,
it's gonna start,
I'm assuming would be like the inaugural.
I think it starts like in 2026
or 2026.
Yeah, so that's like really important for you.
So having like being good now, and getting set with NIL and being able to recruit before like this new Pac-6, Pac-12 officially starts, I think is going to be important. So I think those two will probably be some of like the fastest rolling programs out of those six. But I mean, I'm interested to see who, if anybody, I guess, but who they eventually add, because you could make that same argument for like a lot of those potential schools. Like I want to say some of the names I heard brought up for getting added to that were like Memphis. That's another school or Tulane, another one. Both of those are AAC schools. A lot of those both of those are schools that were getting talked about for maybe getting that like fifth automatic spot. So like that's another example of schools that are like trending upwards, and a jump to the Pac, whatever you want to call it, could bode well for them, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah. Now, getting off the topic of college football and back to the NFL, the Dolphins-Bills game happened last night, and the Bills won 31-10 over the Dolphins, and there's some unfortunate injuries for the Dolphins. Tua was at the end of the game. It was the fourth quarter. I believe he got a concussion, so we are unsure how long he'll be out for, but I did see today that he was doing better in the hospital this morning. But he did throw for 3 interceptions. Their first drive was an interception, and then the last one was thrown, and the Bills were able to run that one back fully for a touchdown. Did either of you two get to catch the game?
I did. I'll start with like what's most important. I hope Tua is doing okay. I'm not going to talk about like his career or anything. It's not our place. But, I think prior to his injury, I think like kind of like a lot of people's reaction were pointing to him just because of like the 3 really, really ugly interceptions. But I'm going to be honest. I think the Dolphins' problems yesterday, expanded beyond quarterback. That looked like, I'll start with a team, totally unprepared for that game. Like, they came out flat, and I think that falls on coaching, Mike McDaniel. Because this is like, I don't think I have to explain to you two or probably anybody listening, because we're in South Florida, how, like the Bills is their like circle and red pen game. You know how important that game is going to be come December, come November. Not only because it's a divisional game, but because it's Buffalo. Buffalo's going to be in the playoff picture. So to come out that flat and look that unprepared and that unmotivated has to, in my opinion, has to signal bad things. Because everyone saw Tua did not look great before he went down. With that quarterback play, it's hard to get like a good look at, like skill positions, but the offensive line didn't look good. The defense got picked apart. Far-reaching problems before Tua even went down. So, not a lot to feel good about for Dolphins fans, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw only a little bit of that game. I was also doing homework and getting prepared for this game tomorrow. However, I believe I remembered seeing that play against Damar Hamlin, which I also found a little bit ironic, because Tua would try to scramble and then he took a shoulder. I think he was trying to avoid hurting Hamlin, because we all know what happened to Hamlin.
It was like an odd tackle.
Yeah.
It was a lot of people were wondering why he didn't slide, but it's such a bang type
play. I feel also because it was Damar Hamlin on the end as well.
He's
everyone knew.
He's not noticing that. Whenever you're running full speed in game, you're not you just see guy in white shirt, not you're not processing that that's Damar Hamlin in front of you.
Yeah, but I feel just how Tua in that play, how Tua tried to slide, how Tua tried to go down, it was kind of off on his part as well. But also thinking skimmed through this article from The Athletic about how he had 3 concussions in 3 years. So also I
want to say this is number 4 since 2022, unless I'm mistaken.
And we all remember what happened when his first concussions, very scary. So we're gonna talk a little more actually about that whole Tua and concussion conversation.
So do you guys in the NFL even with the changes that they're trying to make to prevent concussions, such as the Guardian caps and just advancements in general that they've had with their attire, do you feel concussions are inevitable?
I'm not a neurologist, so it's hard to say, but I think to a degree almost, because even with the most futuristic helmets possible, which they are wearing, and a Guardian cap and all these different things, 300-pound dudes are running full speed at each other. I don't want to say it's a fact of the game, because there are things you can do, but it's I don't want to say almost kinda, yeah. I think that they should be doing all that they can to prevent them, which is outlawing certain types of tackling, which we hear about it constantly. They are doing. I feel eventually it won't be long until everybody's wearing a Guardian cap, which I agree with. If it's can help with concussions, I think it's kind of silly not to. And the only reasons I hear against it are aesthetic reasons, oh, they don't look cool. Who cares?
Exactly. Who cares when it comes to safety?
But football's not going anywhere. So I just hope people are everybody is buying into all these different things we've just named to prevent them as much as we can.
I feel just because of the pure physicality of the sport, it's always been super hard hitting, and they are I can't speak today. Inevitable. Just because of the nature. If you were playing soccer or something, that is where you're contacting the other player a lot less. Still, you run into them in moments, but it's a lot more preventable within that. Even with football, it's great that they're taking these measures to really try to limit that, because there has been a lot of dangerous things that have happened in the past. I mean, still currently there is. But that's what, over the summer I was taking sociology of sport, and we were learning about how people were getting mad when the NFL was making these changes to make football safer, because they believe that it is, they wanted it to keep up with the same brutality, and we're calling it kind of soft now.
I would challenge those people to like talk and meet with some of like former NFL players who like have to like live with the effects of playing football like their entire career. Like, it's no secret at all in 2024, like the details of CTE and the effect of the real life effects of that's happened to so many former football players. Like, we could sit up here and talk for hours, like giving you examples. Like, people like to joke about him, but it's like a real it's a real thing. Like I said, there's so many examples that it's like kind of hard to fathom that there's people like who are against like all these different measures, and there's like hundreds of them. Like, maybe not hundreds, maybe I'm exaggerating, but there are so many different like new preventative measures that can be introduced that I just really hope people will take seriously. Like, I know one of the ones you've seen are like the guys wearing like collars around the back of their neck that like, I want to say the science behind it is it squeezes your neck and like adds more blood to your brain, more cushion. Guardian caps, all these different things are make the game safer. So I don't understand why, people would be discouraging it, if that makes sense. And I feel like a lot of these things are going to be mandatory here pretty soon. Like I saw Jabril Peppers. I want to say he was on the Patriots, wearing the Guardian cap. And honestly, like from the wide shot, on like when you're watching on TV, you hardly notice it.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
notice it.
To me, I do feel like concussions obviously are inevitable unless there's somehow in the future we're able to do is get like helmets inside the brain where the brain doesn't move around whenever you're hitting someone. Until we have until we have that, which I would be surprised if we were able to do that. They're gonna try to make a more like advanced helmets safer, but it's still not gonna solve the issue, which is either way, whenever you're hitting someone full speed, your brain is moving around in your head, and that's what causes CTE. If you watch the movie Concussion with Will Smith and Alec Baldwin, they were talking about how with the brain, it looks a lot like 67-year-old brains on like 50-year-old guys. And so most of those guys are also offensive linemen. Of course, anyone in the NFL can get concussion, and they are doing like advancements with Guardian caps. So NFL is taking this more seriously, having wherever your helmet comes off the field, even after a play, don't make a tackle or whatnot, you gotta get off the field at least one play. They're trying to make measures, make sure that you don't get like too badly injured.
I've never understood the science behind that though.
Why
why you have to take a play off after like.
I feel like because there've been some times like back in like 5 or 7 or even like 10 years ago, like players, I want to say one tight end, something Witten on the Cowboys, I think one time he had a play where like the tight end, he like lost his helmet but continued like throughout the entire
I know, and it's
play.
a penalty too to continue playing after like your helmet
So
comes
I think
off,
also because of that too, because also very exposed as well, but the play is happening in due time. But I mean, they're still taking measures which apply to the NFL for doing that. But I feel like for the answering the question just on like if it's inevitable, it's really not going to be inevitable. But it's great that the NFL is taking measures to prevent concussions, and hopefully they find more advancements. Doctors find more ways they can kind of combat it, where we can still see the game we love to watch and the games we love to play still as they are, but just a little different measures to kind of make it a little bit safer.
Yeah, because they're definitely. Have either of you ever had a concussion?
Yeah, I got a concussion.
Really?
I think. I'm trying to think. I got one in my junior year of high school from football. I'm trying to think.
Oh, so you have experience with it from football?
No, I wouldn't say.
Well, like,
I mean, he's not going to remember. He's not going to remember most likely.
Not that that's
yeah,
like
I've had
good,
one.
But you can relate to the topic. That's fine.
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, like growing up playing football, like you see, like someone get a concussion, like every like week, dang near. Like that's why I kind of like say like, it's not. I don't think we should sit here and be like, oh, it's just part of football, because there are things you can do to like not prevent them, but slow them down. But yeah, no, it's it's something that like because it's like almost like a fact of football, we have to be doing everything we possibly can, and because it's so popular, like around America, so many kids grow up with like the effects of playing football. So that's why everyone should be taking it as seriously, I think, as possible.
Yeah, but also I feel like with that saying, like the brain's like this strongest like muscle in your body, so like that's very important to take care of it, not just like mentally, but also legit like physically, because like with broken bone, broken arm, surgery or operation, cast are fine versus concussion. So there's real severity with that.
Yeah. Now with the injury, the Dolphins said that they aren't looking for a quarterback right now in the free agency. They're planning on sticking with Skylar Thompson or getting a veteran quarterback. Do you guys think that they should stick with Thompson, or should they start looking elsewhere?
I don't think it's the most out of bounds thing in the world because Skylar Thompson has been there in that system with that team and Mike McDaniel. Not for like a crazy long while, but I want to say he's been there for more than it's been like 2 or 3 seasons now, like counting this year that he's been there. So he's familiar with the system, and he got a decent bit of playing time when Tua was hurt in the past. And he started that playoff game, I want to say.
Yeah, against the Bills like a season or two
ago. The season before last. So it's not like it's like going to be his first rodeo out there, starting in the NFL or starting in this system. I think they should definitely do their due diligence, like scouting the free agent market, trying to find, maybe someone higher value at the quarterback position. But that's hard, especially in the NFL, especially this early on in the year, because you think any serviceable QB is going to be on a team right now. So I don't think it's crazy if they do stick with Skylar Thompson, and I think at least for now, that's probably the most probable option.
Yeah,
which I don't think is a terrible thing.
I think it's a good choice if they decide to stick with Thompson. I looked it up and I was wrong. Tua actually went out in the third quarter, and with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, they put in Thompson, so he played the whole fourth and then 4 minutes in the third, and he passed for 80 yards. So
did he turn the ball over in that?
No, he didn't. So he didn't turn the ball over. He threw for 80 yards. He had some.
And that was just getting thrown in there. I'm sorry to cut you off. Like
go ahead.
And that's like that's a rough situation to get thrown
into,
man.
Especially against the Bills' defense too.
Well, I'm just saying against the Bills' defense. When that just happened, like I'm sure, like as a human, like half of his mind is with his teammate. That's a really like abrupt, hard situation to get thrown into. So the fact that and that they're down 31 or like down whatever at that point, the fact that he's like, able to go in there, run the offense to a degree, protect the ball. I think that kind of like goes to show a little bit what I was saying, that like. He's not the most inexperienced guy in the world. Like he's familiar with the offense. I think that should help. That should help keep him comfortable in these first couple games. However, because did they put like a timetable for Tua to come back?
No, they don't have a timetable yet. But yeah, that familiarity is exactly why it would be smart, in my opinion, for them to just keep him and not go with someone else. Because then if they look elsewhere, like you said, any veteran quarterbacks are probably either retired already or they're already with the team. And then he knows their system. And if they brought in this new guy, they would have to teach him their system, teach him like the basics of the team, and have to learn all of that and then go into gameplay. It seems like this would be the safer option.
The one thing that makes it tricky is that, even if the Dolphins didn't look like it last night, they're a win now team. Just because the personnel they have on their team, how much money they have invested at like very premium positions like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, all these different like big name guys. It's not like they're in the position of like I'm trying to think if like maybe like Tennessee or somebody where they can like possibly be okay with like rolling with a QB who you might know is like not the greatest. They're a win now team, and they're a team that's like already in the season because of the division they play in. Every week counts, so it's like you can't be. I don't know what the right word would be, but like wasting games with like a QB that you know is just like a holdover till Tua comes back.
Maddox, do you want to share what you were talking with me about before the show?
Oh no, what
So I saw this thing because one of the people I follow on Twitter, he reposted another thing someone posted about, and it was talking about the Tom Brady saying he won't like rule out I think he said won't rule out return just because. They mentioned about the Dolphins potentially filing a like emergency situation thing where like a veteran quarterback or someone could be on a play. So I mean,
can we let him enjoy?
Yeah, I do agree though.
Can we let him enjoy retirement?
Yeah, I mean, he just started. I was saying like he just started broadcasting. People were saying like, oh, he is like has family in Miami. He lives in near Miami. He should be. It's perfect for him to play there. I'm like. Dude's like 40-something years old. He just started broadcasting.
I would say he just started his new job. He had a nice first week on the job. Can we let him enjoy that?
He just finally officially retired.
Also, I think there's probably like, maybe this is like blasphemy, but at this point in Tom Brady's life, I think there are better quarterbacks you can go after. I think maybe not available in the free agent market, but I doubt Tom Brady's just gonna like take his suit off, get out of the booth, put the pads on, and be like the same Tom Brady we saw for 20 years.
Is a Tannehill reunion with the Dolphins?
That's the one name I did saw, which I think would be pretty cool. I'm not a Miami fan. I don't know how favorably they look at Ryan Tannehill. Like, he wasn't the greatest when he was there.
Yeah, but he was one of like their I won't say longest tenure, but more like most notable quarterback
sad.
in a while, though.
Dang, yeah. I know I'm a Bears fan. I don't have room to talk, but if Ryan Tannehill is one of your most notable QBs of all time.
Marino, yeah.
Whew, that's tough.
Now, with Tua out for the unknown period of time, do you guys think that the Dolphins are still playoff contenders? Or is it way too early in the season to tell that?
I mean, like I said, even before Tua went down yesterday, that really didn't look like a playoff.
That game was a beat down even before he went down.
Right. He looked out of whack. Really, really errant interceptions. And, across the board, that just didn't look like a playoff team. Even on a short week, I think a playoff contender, in a divisional, really hyped up game like that, a playoff contender comes out looking like a lot more prepared, just a lot better than Miami did. So, and I think now when you have like all this, like when I say like off the field, I mean like I think like.
Well, now both of their games have had something off the field that kind of
with that swirling around and them really coming out flat against Jacksonville. Having to come back in that game and then again coming out really flat, both of those at home, to me that doesn't signal playoff contender. And now when you compound that with having, to use a QB2, QB3, you really don't look like a playoff contender, especially in that division. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Maddox, do you have any thoughts on it?
I do think a little bit too early to tell. I mean, looking at their schedule, the last 6 games, peak time, for postseason, trying to clinch postseason, all of them against tough teams, tough defenses, tough offenses. A lot of those games are up north. You're playing 4 away games. All of them are 3 of them are up north. One's in Houston,
and that's when historically they struggle.
Yeah,
at the beginning of the season is where they're usually rolling at their best. Yeah. So. This all happening right now.
Plus, I mean, next week they're playing in Seattle against the Seahawks. Seahawks have a good defense. Their head coach was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. We all knew how well the Ravens defense was last year. So, tough challenge for them with with what happened to it now. Having a whole
I don't know if you have the time. Is that like a 1 p.m. game or 4 p.m.?
4:05.
Yeah, 4:05. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to see, and we can discuss later after they play the Seahawks on the 22nd. Now we can get into our personal teams. Cameron, do you want to start? How do you feel like the Bears are going to do at the Texans this Sunday?
People might say this is biased, especially after, but I think that the Bears look really good in a loss tomorrow night, if that makes sense at all. It's going to be hard, really, really hard for the Bears offense to look worse than they did versus the Titans. So, I mean, I think anything will be an improvement. But I really do think they play the Texans close. I think the Texans have a really, really good offense that's only improved in C.J. Stroud's second year and all the additions they made. But I'm so bought in on the Bears defense. That is going to be one of the most legit units in the NFL, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be a really, really good battle between Texans offense and the Bears defense. But I think, kind of the experience that the Texans have going for them on Sunday night in a really big game that, everyone's going to be paying attention to because of the really good quarterback duel. I think, the experience gets the Texans, the edge.
So you're
in that
expecting
game.
a loss.
But I'm expecting a loss, but I think it's going to be a really close and a really fun to watch game. So if I had to pick a score, it's almost similar to what I said about the FAU game. I'm thinking like 35-31 almost.
So you think
Something
the Bears defense would get what is it for the losing score? 30 something?
I mean,
Didn't
I
you
guess
say 31?
I would say I guess maybe that'd be like too high scoring.
Yeah, because Texans pass rush. I was about to say bear rush. Yeah, their Texans pass rush is pretty tough.
It's true. I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game, though.
The defense isn't going to put up 24 again.
No, I don't think you can count on. That'd be cool.
No, that'd
be
be
really
insane.
awesome. But I don't think you can count on, winning very many games when your offense doesn't score touchdowns. No.
Yeah. Maddox, what about you? The Patriots are hosting Seattle.
Yep. Yeah, the home opener for this season. Really looking forward to watching that in its entirety. Against the Seahawks, again, as I mentioned prior, good defense, good offense. Their new head coach, looking at how they won, looking at their game last week against the Broncos. I mean, it was really strange, again, being like just two safeties in the same game was pretty weird.
Don't see that very often.
Yeah. However, I mean, that Seahawks defense, Seahawks secondary, including Reek Woolen, who's phenomenal. That's going to be really tough.
Devon Weatherspoon at the other corner is also really good.
It's going to be very tough for Jacoby Brissett, who I said from what I saw from last week against the Bengals. He was very calm and poised under the pressure. Again, including that pass rush, he was scrambling a lot, but also found opportunities to try and move around a little bit in the pocket and find an open receiver to gain some yards and moving the chains just little by little. So, I mean, home opener, really excited to see Edge on the Seahawks more. I think CBS, they had their analysts predict unanimously for the second week in a row for the opponent, and we already know what happened last week where everyone picked the Bengals win over the Patriots.
He's feeling that. He's feeling that win so good.
Yeah. So I mean, history could repeat itself. The thing is, one thing I want to observe. One thing, my goal for this season is to see that offense score more points. I mean, 16, not that great to start with, but it was more like a defensive-heavy game. But last season, I mean, the Patriots offense also didn't score on average. Their average was below 20, one of the worst in the league. So I understand a new head coach, new offense, new everything. However, it'd be great to see, at least in the home opener, possibly start getting over 20 points would be a great, but right now, 54.8% pick.
We kind of had discussed this previously on a previous show, but do you think that Drake May might make an appearance this game, or is it still too early for them to put him in?
I still think it might be a little bit too early. Again, it's very tricky with the schedule, trying to figure out where you want to put this rookie quarterback, potentially franchise quarterback, in the mix. Because after the Seahawks game, if I actually go to the schedule, I think afterwards they play the Jets in New York. That's gonna be a very tough defense. Down the road, San Francisco, then back home for for some reason it says 4 straight home games. One of them I think is one of them is against Jaguars, so it's technically it's overseas. I think those 4 games against the Dolphins, Texans, Jaguars, Jets again. The only other opportunity would be probably against the Titans in November. So it's very tricky to figure out where you want to put him. As I mentioned prior,
I feel like this game is not the. This is not the defense you want to throw him in his first start.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of fans were thinking maybe for that 49ers game, but also that 49ers defense. See how they play against the Jets. I really don't know. Maybe that Dolphins game could potentially maybe. However, I still feel continue with what you're planning on doing right now. this like rookie quarterback, potentially your franchise guy. Just have him learn from this guy who has been in the NFL for about 10 or so years, been a career backup. He learned from a lot of different offenses over the years with different teams. Just learn from this guy's expertise. Learn see how this offense is adjusting, just so when you play, either against Miami or against Tennessee or whatnot, whenever they find the perfect time to put you in, that you're ready for that moment. Again, I still don't see Patriots
it's
game
definitely
post.
Wait, so I'm sorry. Do you think, what was the prediction?
Oh,
Patriots
who's
win or
gonna
loss?
win?
Oh,
Wait, didn't he say he thinks the Patriots are going to win because everyone picked the Seahawks?
I mean, I could. You know what? I'll just put myself down for. I would just put myself down for that. Yeah, sure. History.
So,
Let's
yeah.
supposed to be unbiased journalist.
Let
here.
history
Here he
repeat
goes
itself.
picking the Patriots. Okay. Megan, any thoughts on how the Lions will fare
no,
against
I
the
am
Bucs?
so excited for this game against the Bucs. The matchup prediction: the Lions have 65 to 34.7%. So don't call me for being biased, but I do think that the Lions will win this game. Last year, actually, when the Lions played at the Bucs, that was my first NFL game that I ever went to. And
Really? That's a really good game.
How'd you
it
like
was
Ray J?
my first regular season because I went to a Lions and Bucs preseason game before.
That doesn't count.
Wait, how'd you like Ray J though? Wait, you said the game was in Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you like Ray J Stadium?
Oh, it was great. I've been there before, but it's so cool whenever a team scores. But except I wanted them to shoot off the cannon when the Lions would score, and they of course didn't.
I feel bad for the people with those seats right behind the cannon things. One of my
That's
first
what-
games I saw was like at around like the 50-yard line,
Yeah.
and even then I'm like, that cannon's so
No,
loud.
That's what the first preseason game that I went in the Raymond James Stadium. We were like right next to the
Oh man.
ship, and it was craziness. Just because I wasn't expecting it, and then when they shot it off the first time, I'm like, holy crap.
Did you lose your hearing after that?
A little bit, but
Okay.
I've slowly been losing my hearing anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I just think that the Lions, I mean, they won in overtime, which was definitely scary to watch, but they showed that they can finish. They finished the game. So that's why I feel like I have some confidence with them going into this game. Just especially, too, with their win against the Bucs last season, I feel like they've kind of, I don't want to say dominated, but I feel like between the two teams' matchups throughout their past, the Lions have done pretty decent against them. They're not one of our teams that we typically always lose to, like the Packers or something. Those are more games that it kind of goes 50-50. But just seeing how Jared Goff's coming out, and then now seeing Williams to his strength that we saw from last game, I think that they really have a solid group of receivers, and everyone's kind of stepping up this year. So I'm excited to see, and I will take the win for this one.
Do you see Amon-Ra St. Brown finally getting like some of?
He better, because he's on my fantasy team for this week. So if he doesn't get more points than I think he got me 5 points last week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be upset.
Oh, by the way, we're both playing each other in
yeah,
fantasy.
we're playing each other this week. So.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed with how I forgot to set my lineup because I'm not in that mentality yet of playing fantasy. So I forgot that the Dolphins and Bills were playing last night, and that I had Waddle as one of my receivers, and he only got I think 4. So you might have some success in this weekend.
So actually, one thing I want to point out before we go is, so I was scrolling through Twitter, and someone from PMT, pardon my take, who were following the Barstool thing, they were mentioning how, at least this one guy mentioned this hot take that with how the Bucs played against the Commanders in Tampa, that they're like a playoff contender. And I was thinking I don't know if
The Bucs are a playoff contender?
I was
or
saying the Bucs. So do you see that the Bucs? I mean, Baker Mayfield had a great game, but again, it was against the Commanders. Commanders really don't have that really good of a team. They're also one of those teams.
One of the worst defenses in the league.
So
yeah. I'll say that my take on the Bucs going into the year was that Baker Mayfield way overperformed last year, and that the only natural thing it was him to regress back to what we saw for 5 years or however long it was in Cleveland, which is a lot worse than last year in Tampa Bay. So that was I just thought it was only natural that he came back down to earth.
Wait, why would that be bad though if he like overexceeded in like how you typically play? Why would that be a bad thing?
It wouldn't be a bad thing, but I'm just saying no. That wasn't my intention.
You just feel like he performed.
But I think he was just way overperformed last year, and he was due, to come back down to like what we saw, like back to his average, which was lower half of the league QB, like a bottom 10 probably quarterback. So which I'm not hating.
So you're praying for his downfall.
I'm not. I'm just saying that's what I expected, and so I'm not gonna off of one game. I still am of the belief that probably he'll eventually, maybe if it's like week 2, week 4, whatever it is, probably come back to what we saw, like the average of what we saw his entire career, which was like a second bottom half of the league quarterback.
Yeah, but I do think this game against the Lions in Detroit would be a good test for him to see if he is.
For sure, yeah. No, I mean this game's gonna be telling because, it's like a fluky year for it last year. A pretty good defense like Detroit is one to expose you.
Well, I think that's all that we had for today. If you two, does everyone want to go around and say their social? Sorry, guys, I'm not used to this whole thing.
It's been a long week. So you can follow me on Instagram at MaddoxBlado4 and on Twitter at Maddox Greenberg.
You can find me on Instagram at Megan_Brunsma and Twitter Megan Brunsma.
You can find me on Twitter at CamPriester247.
All right. Peace.
Peace.